All right. I had made a list of movies, as I mentioned. I saw a YouTube channel suggesting some horror movies that were very recently made, and then I quickly have completely forgot whose YouTube channel it was. But anyway, I did keep the list, and now I've come to the final film on that list, which is a horror comedy film. Another one. It's, obviously when it combines comedy with horror, or typically it's sort of dark horror, but here it's more just of a comedy. Terrible things do happen in it, but it's more prone to being full-on comedy than Humane was. And so this one is called For Sale. And what's for sale? Well, a house. Of course, it's a haunted house. And so you're introduced into a guy who's a sleazy salesman. He's working for a dealership at the opening, but he screws up, gets fired, goes home all bummed about that. And turns out he had forgotten his wife's their anniversary, and apparently that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So she kicks him out and all this stuff. And he's trying to find friends to give him a place to stay for a while. Apparently he's burnt every bridge. But then comes upon an ad looking for salesmen. And so he jumps on that, goes to the interview, meets with this strange old man who's talking about different properties that, it's really tough to sell. They're in bad locations and that sort of thing. And desperate for a position there, this guy, Mason is the main character's name. He takes on the challenge of this one house that's out in the country or what have you. So the guy says, yeah, all right. And then he says, hey, could I stay there while I'm getting it prepared? So, yeah, sure. So he gives him the keys, and he goes there, and it's this old house and everything. And he just sort of ignores that he tells them there's this rather disturbing history about it all. And, of course, there's been a series of murders there and all this sort of thing. So it's perfect place for haunting, and, of course, it is haunted. And it's the typical horror movies where someone's moved into a haunted house, and it starts off very simple. There's a few little strange things, and then it builds and builds, and that's how it unfolds. There, he's freaked out about it and all that, but he's still trying to sell it, and things get weirder and weirder, and it appears he's sort of attacked by the spirits, and then suddenly he'll wake up as if it was all a dream. But of course, it wasn't. This stuff is really going on, and it's both the typical things of haunted house movies, but at the same time, it's sort of a comedic approach to it, and just how rather silly this character is. And so, for the most part, it's all right. There's some chuckles here and there, and that sort of thing. It's not a bad movie per se, but it just kind of fizzles as it goes. He's stuck there. He hires a medium to help deal with it, and that goes horribly wrong. Well, I won't spoil everything, so I guess I won't do that. But yeah, that goes terribly wrong, and it sort of adds to a little more of the silliness, which on some level it's fine. On others, it's kind of the strange meeting of the two genres. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Here, I guess it sort of does, but I was starting to lose interest towards the end. And it's too bad because the premise of a guy trying to sell a haunted house, and you kind of know where it's going to go, and that he's not being honest with the potential buyers and whatnot. And the whole thing is, of course, you're introduced to him that he's this selfish sleazeball, and all of that, and yet he gains a conscience at the end, and I've got, well, would he? I don't know. And then there's something of a reason. He's almost, because he's successful in selling it at the end, and he learns a certain truth about it that he didn't, that was kept from him to begin with, and that sort of thing. But ultimately, the buyer, there's something he didn't know, and it leads him to, oh my God, I can't let him stay there, and that sort of thing. And ultimately, well, again, that would be spoiling it. Damn it. So, if you got some spare time, it's not bad for that. And I appreciate the attempt at it. It would be an interesting challenge to revisit the idea of you're trying to sell these houses, because this does happen in real life. Not that you can prove the houses were haunted or anything, but you have a house where a terrible crime was committed. It was a murder there or something like that, and it's tough for the real estate agent to sell this thing, but ultimately they do, and you could probably go through something like that. But that's essentially what happens here. So there's some good aspects to it, but for me, it kind of got a little tired towards the end, and I wasn't completely convinced that this guy would go that far in the heroic gesture that he ultimately decides upon there. So what have you. On the other hand, you might really enjoy it. There are some funny moments in it. I do like the premise. I don't know. I think it probably could have been handled better here and there. And I do respect the simplicity of it. And that's typical of, and I'm sure I've said this before, that, if someone wants to learn how to make movies or whatnot, the horror genre is probably your best bet to that, because all you need is a property. So it could be your own house. Just say it's haunted, you got a movie practically. And that's essentially probably what happens here. It's just a matter of the approach, the performances, and the angle and the pacing of it. The performances are fine. The guy does come across quite as, he's just not as smart as Saul Goodman, if you will, but the same type of guy, really sleazy and stuff like that. And, he's burnt every bridge he's had because of his attitude and whatnot. And then he's thrown into this situation. So anyway, it starts off good. It has some good elements to it. To me, it just kind of fizzled at the end. Other films have fizzled far worse. And so, I'm not upset that I saw it. I'm not mad at it or anything like that. Don't know that I'll watch it again, but I don't know, maybe. But if you're curious, you can check it out. I don't think you'll be upset either. It's an okay film, and perhaps, just perhaps, you can be sold on for sale.